So, if you've been following me for a while, you would know that I've been heavily inspired by art commentary channels. I mean, I've done my fair share of commentary too, like on the Captain Marvel debacle, dumb Star Wars articles, people being dumb on Twitter, and Yandere Dev. Kinda regret that one. I'm not someone who talks about other people out of spite or to ruin others. I can get mad at articles all day long, but when it comes to covering individuals, I feel uncomfortable. I always feel the need to cover bigger issues instead, just more general kind of stuff. My content isn't just for commentary either, it's for video essays, retrospectives, and the like. In the past, I struggled to put my channel in the right categories, not knowing what to do with it. I didn't want to force my videos because every time I did, I felt like it was lackluster or it didn't have the passion that I could have put into it. Eventually, I just decided to embrace the idea that my channel is just multiple categories, not just for Star Wars videos or commentaries, but other things that interest me too. But I took a look outside into the universe and saw nothing but a dark abyss.
Crazy. What are you going to do?
Oh, we're going to punch this. Oh, we're going to punch this. Punch this.
With an outsider's perspective.
Suck me in smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Filling the lungs inside you. And the blackened eyes make my way into your mind. Just to know what you knew. Restless every time we start locking eyes up. Lost control. Suck me in smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you do. Feel the darkness take control.
Like most niches and trends on YouTube, it had a beginning. For the commentary community itself, it started in the underground of YouTube, originally showing up on the Something Awful forums in 2005, until moving to a video format in 2008 with a user called Rei, who pioneered riffing on a video in real time similar to the style of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
What is supposed to be being conveyed right now? Besides very dopey people walking around.
However, the style we see more today and is more used to was originally made by users like Boomstick545 and The Amazing Atheist in 2007, taking a video that they had a problem with and cutting in their own criticisms between clips.
Grandpa, I'm home.
I see you brought some friends today.
Yeah, wait, there he is again. There's the guy who plays Kaiba and Joey. Shenanigans!
So, Gramps, show everybody your greatest card.
Whoa, you need that card.
Please?
Please show me!
Oh, how could I say no? I don't get this show often. It's my treasure. Here it is. This is Blue Eyes White Dragon. This is one super ultra rare card.
I'm going to die of pneumonia. Hooray!
So this is it, huh?
This is one of only 4 existing cards in the world. Its value is incalculable.
Oh, you know that impression I just did of Grandpa? You know, where it's a 17-year-old boy pretending to be an old man? Yeah, that's what the voice acting actually sounds like, so you might want to work on that.
Alright, Gramps, I'm buying.
This is my card.
Huh?
This style of video is not just for criticizing different users, but it would also go off in different directions. Some users would cover other people, while other users would cover film and TV shows, like the Nostalgia Critic and the Angry Video Game Nerd. Commentary branched out so much to the ends of the internet that it even has its own categories and sections that relate to said communities, like the SCC, the Slideshow Commentary Community, the DeviantArt Ranting Community, and the main topic of today, the Art Commentary Community, and so on. Speaking of the DeviantArt Ranting Community that happened around the early 2010, there's a time where yours truly started getting into that community both as a fan and a watcher. From 2014 to 2018, the art community in of itself was thriving with tutorials, speed paints, and topic videos. This style of the video had a person recording their lines and had a speed paint running in the background, and the occasional avatar representing the user. It was a very simple format to make for a video, especially if you have the right equipment handy. People loved this sort of video because it not only covered art topics, but also showed the creation of art pieces as well. Therefore, people in the art community started covering other users' tutorials and art creations in the hopes of helping other people. Another popular way of critiquing the art community was making videos browsing DeviantArt. This style was made popular by the YouTuber I Hate Everything, which helped spawn channels like Solar Sands, The Phantom Menace, Savdraws, and more, where they would make a video on DeviantArt user pages and give them criticism based on what they saw on their profiles. However, this would prove to be hurtful to the users and viewers watching because of the way the criticism was usually delivered. Therefore, more often than not, mocking and demonizing the user instead of providing help when giving younger viewers the impression that doing these actions, the user that they are criticizing is bad. But up until 2016, when people started to speak out on these users, influencing a new crowd of people such as TheNamesJunkie, who started his Rantception series, going over various other users and giving them advice on how to improve on their rants and commentaries.
May I take your hat, sir? May I...
Alright, I've heard enough.
Honestly, if you want to continue doing these types of videos, I highly recommend you buy the full version of Bodycam to get rid of the distracting watermark. It's also wise to write a script so that you won't go off topic too often, and try to make your work more constructive. The editing is alright, but the one pro definitely is outweighed by the cons. So please look into this if you can.
This started a slew of more creators commentating on each other to purely give criticism and help their fellow creators and artists. But even then, it wasn't without its own problems. If a creator didn't know how to properly critique someone, they would send people after the other creator, therefore causing them unwarranted harassment, leading to a cause of drama, having other people join in on making videos on a creator who originally commentated on the video, then friendships would get destroyed, then slowly a new creator would come in and would start to get more attention because of their video on the quote-unquote bad creator who made said video, and yeah, this was a cycle that would infamously repeat over and over and over and over and over again until that led up to the very much also infamous Spoctor Theory drama, where 3 creators, Pentagon, Stories, and Atari, all decently sized YouTubers at the time, accused their colleague Spoctor of being a predator and overall bad person in 2018, therefore throwing Spoctor's entire life and career down the drain until 2 other creators, Ponder Sprocket and PK Russell, jumped into the fire and were able to clear his name of these accusations, all while calling out a big portion of the community for not looking deeper into the screenshots and evidence provided, or lack thereof for that matter. Ponder made an everlasting impact on the community, boosting her to the top of the food chain, but even with the impact after the Spoctor drama, the now art commentary community, because obviously after the DeviantArt ranting community, they all merged into the art commentary community, the community started to become more toxic with each passing day, therefore bringing us into the next segue. After talking to a few people in the commentary community as a whole, it has become clear to me that there is multiple sides to the problem here. The creator, the audience, and the website itself. Let's start with the creator themselves. I've noticed when some creators make their videos, sometimes they tend to latch onto a topic that they are not involved with, most of the time to get views or make their channel bigger. Sometimes they will either sprout the same information that has already been talked about several times before, even inserting false information about the topic to add something to it, essentially bandwagoning. Creators would go as far as to start drama not for criticism or to help the person they talk about, but to go after them and defame them. Of course, let me make it clear, I'm not going after anyone in particular here. I'm just pointing out behavior that has happened in the past few years. Another problem with the creator is they don't read screenshots or evidence that is provided to them, but will take screenshots as hearsay, such as the Dollyguts and Toby situation, where they had screenshots that led nowhere or taken out of context. Listen, to people who are just starting commentary, please be careful with what you say and how you conduct this information online. In particular, hundreds of people were listening and going after these users. Your words matter when it comes to this sort of thing. If you rush and act foolishly, then you have the potential to ruin someone's life, depending on what you say or do. But worst of all, if you lie, it will come back to bite you one way or another. And this is why commentators say to stay away from the community, because it's a toxic piranha tank. If they smell blood in the water, they will attack you. It's a bad community and an environment to be in. Therefore, a lot of creators end up leaving or just stopping YouTube altogether. A lot of the time, things come to be too much to deal with. Therefore, they decide to step away or live long enough to see themselves become the villain. It also doesn't help when creators don't reach out to the person they have a problem with. They assume things about them, painting them in a bad light. This is bad for both parties because this isn't done for criticism or to help them. It's only to take that person down. Therefore, leading to creators looking for drama or to ruin a person. This is why I say the art commentary community is now like a piranha's tank, because unlike sharks, they scavenge for their prey, and when they find it, they kill. It's not even about art anymore. It's become nothing but ruining others for clout. To me, it's not surprising because this all started when people made videos on others. But this has not only had an effect on others or the creator, I believe that doing nothing but drama on their channel can stifle their creativity and passion, therefore leading to how creators affects the audience. With every fan base, there's always a portion of people that cause problems. With the Star Wars fandom, it's not being open to new things. With the Undertale fandom, it's the fans who gatekeep a certain route. There's always that one portion. With the art commentary community and the commentary community overall, the fans tend to be very young and naive. A lot of them want to start commentary themselves because they saw their idols doing it. I was one of those people. I loved Pondersprocket's videos. I enjoyed Junkie's editing skills and learned a lot of tricks from him. I aspire to be a great writer, like The Right Opinion. However, it took me a while to actually realize how draining it is dealing with heavy topics as the CC tends to cover. After doing 2 commentary videos and a trash video, it was too much for me to handle, from the stress of being dogpiled on for my opinion. This is the fear the audience holds over the creator, because the audience can judge and destroy the creator's reputation, either by commenting about or gossiping about said creator on their videos or other places. The commentary community became like a TMZ office, where people thrive off of drama and gossip to get by and feed the creator. This is the worst kind of audience to have, as they can destroy everything you have, since cancel culture has become bigger and worse than before. The audience are hard to please in terms of entertainment. Unless it's a drama, people don't care about what the creator does in terms of other content. This puts the creator in a tough situation. While there are other creators who could move their content away from drama successfully, I've seen many creators fall from the limelight after moving from drama due to a lack of interest in their normal content and the YouTube algorithm. Which also leads to another problem with doing drama as a sole thing on YouTube. YouTube is a strange platform when it comes to the algorithm. The average user may not understand it because of the constant changes to algorithms. Some channels can grow at a really fast pace abnormally, such as Janelle Eliana. From posting a singular video, she gathered nearly 1 billion views from the first couple of days that video was up. With other content creators, sometimes their channels rarely grow at all. The system YouTube has set up is strange, to say the least. This is bad for YouTubers who want to branch out, especially for drama channels, because they are stuck within the confines that they set themselves up in. It's a trap most creators tend to fall into when they decide to focus their channel on one form of content, such as drama or rants. The algorithm only suggests that type of content in people's recommendations and nothing else from those set channels. This is why I say you should never stick to one thing only. Sticking to one genre can restrict you, and being stuck with making content such as drama or rants, again, isn't good for the creator because they have to constantly find ways to come up with the next big video. In my opinion, this is not a good way to push content as it restricts the creator. This is why creators shouldn't feel the need to restrict their content to one subject and instead experiment. Now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, there is one more thing I want to do here. Not only is this video for giving my own thoughts about the community, but it's also about opening a dialogue between creators and their own opinions on the subject. So I have spoken and interviewed several different content creators that have been a part of the community for some time. This should give an insight to you all about how creators feel about the current community and what can be improved and somewhat. So why don't you all take a look at that. Do you give consent to our interview being shared?
Yes, I do.
Alright, cool. So, who are you? What do you do? What's your purpose in life?
Going straight for the big ones, alright.
Hi there, my name is Junkie, or hi there, my name is Junkie, or TheNamesJunkie. I do YouTube stuff here and there related to like video topics that I'm interested in, or just stuff I like doing. I've done rants / commentary for well over 5 years. I have been a part of it for 5 years, and it's a very fun little niche that I'm in. I've been a part of it for so long that I've met a lot of really great friends and just wonderful people in the community. And I've learned a lot throughout the past years just from doing this kind of stuff.
Well, I guess the first thing I could ask is, like, you've had the Rantception series for a while. I could ask, like, do you think your Rantception series influenced other creators to do something similar?
Personally, I don't think it did, because, like, and not in the sense like, oh, it didn't solve anything. No, I think more in the sense like the concept has been around forever. Everybody's responded to other people in the past. It's just, I think what it is that it did give people some ideas, or like to like jump on board with the idea, because it probably was an idea that was around for a while. Just people just didn't really like jump on it because it's like, oh, it wouldn't really be worth it in the end. But in a sense, that kind of stuff can be influencing, I guess. Personally, I don't think it is, but I can kind of see why. I mainly do my series because I just want people to realize that not everyone is going to be perfect. And hell, I'm not even perfect. My own videos in the past, my past receptions have not been perfect. I've made plenty that are genuinely bad. But generally speaking, I do think that it can do some good.
Okay. So what was your original idea for the Rantception series?
Oh god, that's a hard one. Fuck. I hope it's I hope cursing is allowed for your video.
Yeah, no, fine. I don't care.
It came up one day because I was getting back into doing rant topics again, because I was still part of the kind of the art commentary community, or art, because I did like DeviantArt rants back in the day when I was still starting out, trying to get my channel off the ground. It was like stuck at around 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers for years, and I just didn't know where else to go. So I thought to myself, oh, I'm gonna do my own DA rants, or just rants in general here and there. And then I saw Sav Draws' videos a while back, and I was just like, man, his content's like not good. And I wanted to make that very apparent, and so they were my very first video to do that on. It was kind of a new thing for me personally, because I'd never done something like that before. So I was like, all right, what should I call this? Because I was really curious, and like we've had many. I think I had a friend of mine. They like kind of went back and forth with this for a while, and I think the first one was like a rant reaction or something. I was like, it just does not roll off the tongue. And so, like, I think one of my friends joked about Inception, and I was like, Inception rants, like, that's it. And I just kind of roll with it since then, and it's stuck around. People recognize my stuff from those kind of videos. And that's just kind of where it started. It started from just me wanting to, like, point out mistakes or just issues and flaws that I've seen in other people's videos. Some did great. Some didn't really like me calling them out. Obviously, because I don't blame them, honestly, because like no one wants to be called out. Even I wouldn't want to be called out. But like at the end of the day, people kind of need it when you least expect it. Because I've had my own friends point out some of my own issues and mistakes that I've done, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is true. Like I think it's the one thing that can be kind of hard when it comes to these kind of things. You have to learn to like accept when you have, when you have made your own faults here and there, your own mistakes. But yeah, that's how it started. It was just a little back and forth thing with my friends, and then we just kind of came up with the concept of the name right then and there.
Well, what got you into the art commentary community? Like, what was the pull of it originally?
I did a video on with a buddy of mine, and we both did a collaboration together. It was just a little one-time thing, where we basic. It was a quote unquote critique slash helpful rant, because even I have fallen in that kind of category back in the day. But really, it was just us making fun of this one user. I think it was a Aaron slash Princess Elizabeth. And looking back, that video, I'm glad it's gone. I feel bad for what they've gone through. Like, granted, they're not perfect. They've done a lot of really stupid things, but then again, I have done stupid shit. So it's like, yeah.
Everyone has.
That was my start, and I wish it wasn't my start. I think that it was kind of just, falling apart again. I was like, you know what, I want to jump back in one last time and see where it goes, and see where it takes me. And I'm still going. I'm still getting somewhere in life. I've been adapting as much as I can. I've molded my content more and more. Like, originally, like, my rant sessions was just kind of like, just a one-time kind of thing, but now I only do them every once in a while, and I don't constantly push them out every day, considering the fact that my stuff is now animated and everything, and I have to take time on these projects, and I also have to set up a staff to work with. It's just a lot more goes into it. But generally speaking, I got involved in it because I found it interesting. I liked the community surrounding it, even if it is a toxic cesspool at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I do not regret the people that I've met in this community. I have met a lot of really wonderful people that has helped me throughout my life and my own journey. And it's helped me grow, not only in terms of like as a person, but also as a content creator in general. Like, I've learned a lot when it comes to editing that I didn't even know was possible.
Alright. That kind of like segues into another question I could ask is, like, what do you think of the fandom of that community? Not just necessarily the creators, or like, how do you think the fans handle things in terms, or like, do you think they're too much sometimes, or just give your like general opinions.
Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, that depends on the situation. Like, say for example, for like the pyro incident, like, I'm kind of with it, but generally speaking, I think they did the best, considering like a lot of people were like kind of with it or waiting about that, which I think was good. I'm glad they waited to see what happened. But most of the time, they generally act very malicious. And especially the Luke situation, people have been very like, oh, you got to pick one side, you got to pick this side, that side. Just like, you do not need to pick a side. You can hate someone, but not make them hate another creator. That's so stupid. Don't do that. Like, everyone has been going on and on about like how you should not like how like, oh, you should never like be forced to pick a side, but then when the day comes, they will try to make you pick a side, which is really, really obnoxious. I think the big example of that was like when I was dealing with like a situation between me and PK Russell. Like, I criticized his content, and a lot of people were just basically saying like, I don't know if I should support him anymore, but I don't know, Junkie, what do you think I should do? It's like, if you like his content, sure, I don't really care. Like, well, what, your videos make me question. Like, that is, and I just explained to them, like, that is your choice. Do you want to support them or not? I don't care if you like him or not. That is your choice. That is your mind, your rules, your body. You do what you want. I'm not your father. I'm not your parent. I'm not your guardian. You do what you think is right. And I think that's something that people just kind of forget. Like, they just think, oh, I can't like stick to my own gut. I have to pick a side at the end of the day. And generally speaking, there are occasions where you should pick a side, where it should be pretty obvious who you should be siding for. But when it comes to like, say, like really like neutral or just like generally really dumb situations, you don't really need to pick a side. You just fucking ignore it. You don't have to get involved all the time. And I think it's a really big issue that I've seen in like, say, the Toby situation. I actually remember calling out everyone for like being extremely racist towards some creators, one of them being Harsh Opinions. Like, generally, Harsh handled it the worst way possible when it came to like her video. She was very reactionary, she was very spiteful, and generally speaking, she was a lot more like vindictive than she usually is in her videos. Like, she usually has a very like smarmy kind of attitude, but like in the one she was responding with Kai, it was noticeably a bit more intensive, which kind of threw me off. And the reaction she got was kind of expected, but on the other hand, it was really disgusting seeing how many people were like basically making fun of her being white, it's like that kind of defeats the purpose. Like, yeah, she made a very like racially like insensitive kind of remark, but being racially insensitive back doesn't usually solve anything. In fact, it never solves anything. Which I'm thankful that when I did call the people out on that, they did back off, which I'm thankful for. But it's like, yes, the community can be very toxic, and they do need to get themselves situated.
Do you think there's a big bandwagoning problem in the art commentary community?
Yes, without a doubt. Will not hesitate to that question. Yes, there is a problem. Honestly, it's always been there. Like, I don't even think it's a problem in the art commentary community. I think it's just media in general. People will just jump onto something as quick as they can. Like, people will jump onto anything just to get some sort of notoriety. I've had many of my own fans come to me saying that they wanted to jump on into some projects and even just get me to jump on projects that I just personally don't really like, but they just want me to talk about it because it's something they want me to talk about. It's like and especially with like the miscommunication that's very rampant in like the commentary community, with how like people just react very poorly to others and whatnot, and it just causes more problems than necessary. I think I even did a video on it in the past, talking about how it can be an issue and how we need to be careful and whatnot. But might actually look back into that topic in the future, considering how much more relevant it is nowadays. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree. I do think that it is a serious problem, and I wish it could get solved, but knowing the mainstream media that it is nowadays, I don't think that's ever going to go away. It's just going to be part of our lives for pretty much ever.
Do you think people in the CC overreact to things or make decisions based on how they feel?
Yes. Yes, they do. Not everyone does it. I have some of my friends that are relatively pretty chill and have a good like head on their shoulders, but there are a few that jump to conclusions way too fast and overreact to every like a little mundane thing. Considering the fact that one of these questions I think brings up like the your video itself brings up the Toby incident. People jumped in on that really quick and then overreacted way more than it needed. Jar is a good example of that because of how quick he was to just constantly react more and more and more, and just most of the time it made it worse for himself. I get the man has already apologized, but there were better ways to handle it than that. And generally speaking, I have spoken to other commentary community members that are smaller in the community, but I try to speak to others that are in it to try and give them some ideas, or just generally just to help them out whenever they need it. I remember one person just getting very, very angry over criticism, and I think one of them was like a commentary video that I think was made by Luxter. I might show it in a moment. They pointed out like their review of how like very bad the criticisms were, how like they were mostly subjective, which you do need to be careful when it comes to reviewing, because if your review becomes mostly or just completely subjective, it kind of loses its meaning. Not really meaning, more so like it kind of loses that like that tact to it. Like when you point out genuinely serious flaws instead of like subjective, like, oh, I don't like the comedy here, or I don't like how this art looks. If you don't elaborate on your critiques, it doesn't really add much of a punch to it. It just kind of makes it seem tactful, like you just threw it on or whatever. The original creator did not react too well with that. I remember giving them genuine criticism, and they reacted by cutting me off, which annoyed me, but at the end of the day, that was their choice. That was their choice to, deal with the drama, more so deal with the criticism in general. And I have to remind myself that I can't, help everybody. There are just some people that just need to help themselves. I wish the rest of the CC could actually understand that kind of concept, because not many people really seem to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a question I wrote down, but do you even think it's surrounded, like, it's for art anymore? Like, do you think it, like, has anything to do with art, which it originally started from?
Sometimes it can be, but most of the time, as of right now, it's mostly about who said what, what they're saying, what's going on right now, and why it angers me and whatnot. It's a very like hearsay-ish kind of drama nowadays, especially with like the stuff resounding around Luke and everything. Personally, I'm kind of just with it. People have been really reacting very like poorly towards Luke. I just think that both sides are just kind of just dumb in the end. It's getting way too big than it really needs to be. It's kind of like, say, the situation regarding around like I wouldn't really say a situation. I would say like more like it's like a critique between two creators that kind of evolved into like just the two of them just either bickering at each other or just getting one to dogpile on one another, and it doesn't solve anything at the end of the day.
Overall, with all of your experiences in the art commentary community, do you think anything good comes from any of these situations? Like, is it even worth it at the end of the day?
That depends. Say for like the Splotter situation, it did bring more like people out of the woodworks to show how A, they're either really toxic, or B, for Ponder's sake, how she proved herself to be a very trustworthy kind of person in these kind of situations.
Mm-hmm.
But it can lead to really bad things, like say for like the Slazo incident, how people just literally dogpiled on the guy. Come to find out, literally all of that was lies and slander from the ex, which was disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very mixed bag. Sometimes it can bring some good, sometimes it can bring some bad. You just never know. It's basically Pandora's box. You will never know what's going to happen.
Alright. Well, how would you like this community to be like going forward?
It's a very, I wouldn't say it's a difficult question to answer, more so it's a very long answer to that specific question. People need to be a bit more mindful to creators, because with like say the Luke situation, I brought this up a lot, but like it's very apparent. I've spoken to the guy myself. I've spoken to him for like questions in the past. He never answered an interview, but I did manage to get into a call with him after my video came out.
Mm-hmm.
And generally speaking, everyone's been like stating how like he's very evil, how he's a horrible person. And I've spoken to him. The guy's just an average person. He's not this vindictive, evil son of a bitch that's out for everyone's blood. Like, no, like that is a gross exaggeration of someone. And I think that people need to understand that these creators are still people at the end of the day. They're still human beings with emotions and flaws and everything. Like, I am a human being with emotions and flaws and everything. Like, you can't just like single someone out because one creator said they're bad and that's it. That's the end all be all. Like, that's a very toxic mindset to hold, and I hope that the community gets out of that mindset, or at least like makes it less common, because I've been seeing it pop up more and more and more, and how like, oh, this creator's a bad person, period. Like, let's all destroy them all. Like, no, that doesn't solve anything. And the other thing that just really irks me is just how open they are to just not communicate, but say that others need to communicate in general. Just very hypocritical kind of behavior. How they're saying, oh, you need to communicate. Like, well, you're going to do the same thing? No. Why? Because I feel like it's not fair at the end of the day. It's just not fair to do that kind of crap. Like, you should not only hold people at the same level as others, but to yourself as well. You can't just go like, oh, well, you can't do that to this person, but when you do it yourself, well, it's different because like it's me. Like, no, it's not cool. It's why, like, for when I was trying to call out like say what was it when we called out Jar's behavior, people were trying to like claim, oh, well, like, see, he didn't exactly state it was like, because he made a comment where like Todoroki isn't a kid, he's 16, old enough to drive. And people were trying to give him an excuse of like, oh, like, see, he said kid, not minor. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, the wording alone is really sus. You should not be giving these people excuses for that. Like, hold them to the same standard as everyone else. This is generally my whole spiel about the whole thing, because it just drives me nuts. That's why I don't really talk much on YouTube. Or as much as I used to.
Understandable, honestly. It sounds like
Yeah.
they sound like sticky situations, and it's just me being a viewer of that whole of those situations. It's even hard for me to watch everything go down because I know it's just like when shit's going down, it's going down.
No, I've had to comfort friends here and there whenever I could, and like, it's taxing. It's mentally exhausting, and I think that's what people need to understand. Is that like whenever people go through like dramas and whatnot, it isn't just one person dealing with a lot of stuff. It's both sides. Everyone's dealing with like really taxing situations and whatnot. Because like for me, for example, I have been speaking to Creepshow Art a lot more. And the stuff that she's explained that she's gone through, I've had to comfort her as much as I could, because like a lot of this is taxing for everybody because no one knows what to do at the end of the day. And honestly, I do not blame anybody for being in this community and just wanting nothing to do with it, because like it's really debilitating at the end of the day. You just don't know what you're going to be able to do or what where it's going to go next.
Yeah.
But that's generally what it is. What I was wanting to mention.
All right. Well, the last thing is I want to ask is like, you know, I've seen a lot of people, and I do mention this in my script. Like a lot of people tend to want to try commentary and different stuff like that. But like, if you could, like, could you give any pointers to like people who are just starting out and not knowing of like the risk that they can get into when they make the videos like you do and Ponder does and Spoctor does and certain stuff like that?
So I follow a 3-step criteria when it comes to these kind of things. Number one thing is to always have your evidence on hand and at the ready when you're ready to, you know, begin the video. Don't like write things out and then gather as you go along. You need to study and research this before you start writing. Always do your research first before you do your writing. I've done that before in the past and it's gotten me in trouble multiple times. Mm-hmm. And another thing to worry about is to always script yourself when it comes to these kind of dramas. You cannot do them live. I mean, I've seen people that could do them, but it is much easier when you have things sorted out and planned, because then you could like accommodate to like things that like might go wrong. Oh, well, at least it's not on the open, and now I can just fix this behind the scenes, and no one will ever see this kind of stuff. And that's just generally what I wish people would do more often. But I've seen so many people just try to do like live like replays and whatnot, and I'm like, that's not how you do this, but okay. And the last one I would suggest doing is make sure your critiques are objective, not subjective. Because at the end of the day, sure, you may not like a person's sense of humor or how they go about things, but when you start bleeding that subjective critique into your objective review, that makes it less meaningful at the end of the day. Because which would be more impactful? Someone like stating, "Oh, I don't like this kind of comedy because it just reminds me of such and such, and that's it," or I noticed some weird animation quirks here and there. You should probably look out for that. Here's some suggestions. Like just it's flat out suggesting stuff when you have an objective critique is miles better, because you're not only pointing out the problems, you're even giving them like pointers on where to go and fix that kind of problem. And I wish more people would do that.
All right. Well,
yeah, that's just generally the 3 pointers that I've had for those kind of things.
Yeah, and I can ultimately understand, because I've seen a lot of users, just in general, like when people want to start out and they want to like follow their idols and everything like that, and make the same videos that they make and you know, get the attention that they get. It's just kind of like they don't understand what they're getting themselves into. It even goes all the way back from like the days of DeviantArt, where everyone would make like a art theft journal, or like this person is doing XYZ, they're a bad person because reason. People just generally like do try to follow, you know, the leader here, but they don't realize, like, if they don't have the sufficient evidence, if they don't have, like, a real reason to go after said person, that they can hurt not only that person they're going after, but they can hurt themselves as well, because I've seen, you know, I've noticed that so many creators have shot themselves in the foot because they decided to go after someone they, one, either don't like, or they just wanted to make the next big video that would make it big. And it's really disheartening, because I know they can make good content and stuff, but it's like it's they just essentially the pattern just like keeps repeating, I find.
Right.
But
does that answer all your questions?
yeah, it does. Yeah, I
Okay,
really
cool.
appreciate you coming on to the video and everything, and giving your thoughts and viewpoints, and helping me out. So yeah, I really appreciate it. So, the first question I need to ask, well, really anyone, is, do you give consent to our interview being shared?
Sure. I mean, that's the reason you asked.
Yes.
I don't mind.
I have to ask, like, introduce yourself to the audience. Who are you? What do you do? And,
yeah, I'm Doodletones. I'm just one of the members of the very, very niche slideshow commentary community. I talk about whatever topics or whatever videos, like, just kind of come across my radar that I feel I can critique. That's really much it. There's not a whole lot to talk about.
how did the STC start? What's the beginning?
So, okay, I definitely wasn't there for its conception. I've only been a slideshow commentator since, like, 2015. But, from what I do know, I think it started in, like, way back towards, like, 2005 or 2006. Like, there was these couple of commentators, like Boomstick and Jim81 Jim. Those two I know are, like, some of the earliest examples of the kind of commentaries that I do, where they just go and, like, look at a specific video and respond to it. And that just kind of has evolved over the course of, like, many years. Different generations of commentators, I guess. They used to call it, like, or at least that's what they used to do. They used to, like, divide it by generations of commentators back then. We don't really do that very much anymore. But, yeah, I think it started, I guess, around those two, and, like, the ranting community and stuff like that. People like, Helsing, what was his numbers? Like, Helsing 920? Dude went by Emmer Prevost after a while. He was one of them. You had, I can't even think of a lot of the earlier commentators, but point is, just a couple of people decided that they were going to start responding to various videos that they had issues with, and it just kind of went on from there, I guess.
Alright.
I don't know. As I said, I've only been here for, like, a handful of years.
Yeah, no, I understand. So, what makes the SCC different to other communities out there? Like, what are the categories of the whole commentary genre?
So, yeah, as this is something that I've brought up in a few videos by this point. So as I mentioned before we got into this interview, there are many different branches of commentary because commentary is such a broad topic. You have your political side of things, like your skeptic community, your armored skeptics, your Sargon of Akkad's, your H-bomber guys, your Undooms, Bearings. I don't know too many of the other side of the political compass on that end, but I haven't really watched a lot of them. But basically, they talk a lot about politics, religion, and stuff like that. That's their main focus. Like, typically they'll have like a historical figure or some shit like that with like some sunglasses on, you know, as their avatars. That's typically how you find those. You have your leafy cynicals, the gameplay footage kind of commentators that go in to just riff a video and, you know, nothing more. They just like sit there, laugh at a person for being, you know, quote unquote, spurgy or autistic or whatever. Those were for a while what any commentator would get labeled as, even if they did something vastly different. What is it? The more general, broader topic kind of commentary channels like Right Opinion, Turkey Tom, J Opry, D'Angelo. You know, those people talk about certain events or certain channels and talk about like a broader topic, specifically focusing on them. You got the newest art community that talks mostly about like art dramas and stuff like that. But the slideshow commentary community, a lot of what we do is just like, we just cover videos that we have issues with. They're just individual like circumstances, like individual what's the word? It's just moments, you know. We don't really look at people from like a negative viewpoint as a whole. Typically we don't, at least I hope we don't sit there and like look at a person from like a bad video and think negatively as them as a whole, unless there's like a damn good reason to expect otherwise. So we're only really going in to criticize like individual videos. We're not here to like look at broad, you know, dramas or talk about like events that are happening, stuff like that. And I think that's what makes the thing different. Also, presentation is also another key factor for slideshow commentators, because as the name implies, we are slideshows. A lot of us, when we first get in making slideshow commentaries, we use like anime characters or cartoon characters or video game characters, and yeah, that typically gets us a lot of flack. But that's one thing you could look at. Not a lot of us have been moving on to avatars though, so I don't know how much longer that moniker is going to stay.
Can you tell me about a few incidents where criticizing a user ended up harming the user and the audience watching, just like in general within the community?
I mean, I can't think of anything offhand. Well, I mean, like, do you mean just like because again, we criticize like individual videos. So are you referring to just in an instance like that, or something that I've seen like just kind of on the outside looking in to like these instances that happen in the art community?
I would say the instance, like, probably like kind of both. I would say like where maybe someone was criticizing an individual video, and like something spurred on from there, or like from looking in, like where the art community, especially like the DeviantArt stuff, like back in those days, like where it would just end up harming the user.
Well, I guess from when I came in and they're on. I guess there's like the friend situation, like Ponder did the whole Bopter theory video that, like, I would say is probably one of the more important commentaries from our community to have been made. Yeah, I feel like after that, Fran, like, made a huge deal about it, went into a chat to vent about how Ponder criticized her, and then Heaton Mitsuru made a video on Fran, and that kind of sparked a little bit of a situation between Junkie, myself, slightly on 8363 MTR, and Next Gristman, who now goes by Old D3 because he doesn't want to go by the same moniker. But point is, like, there was a whole situation there. But so I think that's probably like the best example I can come up with from like the SCC. From an outsider looking into the art community, I'm gonna be honest, that fucking Toby drama, I did not like that Toby drama at all, and seeing how many people got roped into it, kind of without their wanting to, like, what was it, Nezzy Monster got roped into it, all because, she had said that, like, oh, this kind of looked like, what was it? She kind of made she drew a comparison between that situation and the Madame situation, and that just caused, like, this one dude to just kind of rope her into it, and then she was just harassed for, like, she was harassed for months on end about it. Or, like, people kept constantly bringing it up to her to the point where she had to make numerous statements about it. I definitely did not like that. I didn't like seeing that, but apparently it's also fucked with Toby, and, I saw, what was it, Prison Mate Luke did, like, a whole video, on Just a Robot, and that fucked with him. I had a whole conversation, like a whole call with Just a Robot to try to calm him down through that situation. So, from an outsider looking in, I definitely have seen situations like that harm individuals, but within the community that I reside, I don't see it very often.
Alright, yeah, I can imagine that whole situation, just even for our viewers' point, like from me, who just viewed the whole situation as a watcher, yeah, it just seemed like a total mess, and it's just, it's like a car wreck in slow motion.
Yeah, it's like, to be honest, the whole Ben the Looney, Toasty Vanilla, Toby, Hopeless Peaches, Just a Robot drama, that whole group of, like, chains, like, it was a whole chain of dramas, and it's gotta be the most infuriating chain of dramas I've ever seen. Like, everyone was so willing to look at what people say, and then take the least charitable interpretation there is, twist the context, delete the context in some cases, make broad claims, and sometimes without evidence. It was just, I got exhausted looking at it all, and I for one thought, like, everyone was kind of dealing with it in the worst way possible.
Yeah. Well, do you think people, segueing from that whole thing, do you think people in the commentary community as a whole, do you think people overreact to things or make decisions based on how they feel, or such as acting on impulse and then releasing videos without even doing enough research or having evidence? Do you think that is a problem?
Oh, absolutely. Hell, I've done it a few times myself without thinking about it. So, I mean, I'd be a hypocrite, or, oh, maybe not a hypocrite. I'd be incredibly, I'd be incredibly misleading if I said that wasn't a thing that happens, that wouldn't be a problem. It absolutely is.
All right. Do you think there's a big bandwagoning problem within the community as a whole?
See, I think you might be asking the wrong person for that, because okay, to a degree, yes. I do think that there can be a bit of a problem with bandwagoning in commentaries, just kind of in general, because a lot of times, the conversation can turn into a game of telephone. However, I wouldn't say the act of having a bandwagon is inherently a problem. I guess from someone who was a bandwagon in February of 2016, I would like to think that I was better off from that, because enough people were looking at the stuff that I was making and giving enough of a perspective. Like, there was a broad spectrum of perspectives for me to look at from that whole situation and figure out what I need to do. And you could argue whether or not I did, but I definitely tried to implement what they were giving me. So in that sense, I don't think the act of having a bandwagon is a problem, but I do feel like, yeah, sometimes people can go a little above and beyond. The fact that I have still been a bandwagon since 2016 could kind of show that, yeah, some people can get a little vindictive, some people can get a little malicious, some people can act out against a person because they just don't like them. And enough time passes with enough voices, coming into the mix and muddying everything. Yeah, you could get some pretty big problems coming in from having a bandwagon. So I think ultimately, yeah, my answer would be yes and no.
I think that's an interesting perspective on it, yeah.
Again, I guess it just comes from the fact that I was a bandwagon for a time being, and arguably I still am, depending on who you want to ask.
Thank you for answering my questions and coming on to the video. I really appreciate your viewpoint and you taking time out of your day. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Yep. Alright. We're recording.
Bet.
Okay. Awesome. Alright. Take it from the top. Second time we're recording this audience. I'm sorry. Anyway. Alright. Do you give consent to our interview being shared?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Alright, cool. Who are you? What do you do? What's your purpose in life? The hard questions, obviously.
Damn. Okay, my purpose in life is to overthrow all world governments and I'm Dulu. That's what my friends call me. I have a channel on YouTube by the name of Vabzuycin. I used to make strictly commentary response videos to other videos, but now I kind of broadened my horizon and I make kind of like discussion type videos where I cover like I commentate on events and situations, sometimes in combination with commentary response type videos. So like I'll like have a situation where I'm going over a situation, and in that video I'll have something to respond to, like a video to respond to. That's kind of my content now. I cover stuff that's kind of more related to like art and like situations in art communities, like broad art communities, like super broad. And more recently I've been tackling more abstract concepts. At least I plan to. But also I've kind of been including more social issues like racism or transphobia or like LGBT phobia in general. I've kind of been including those into my content, so those are like heavier issues that I've been covering more recently. But you know, I have stuff to say on those, so I think I think my channel has blossomed over the years from where it started, which was like very menial stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. So what got you into the art commentary community?
Okay, so do you want me to talk about how I got into how I ended up being like associated with the art commentary community, or like all the stuff that went on before then that led up to this kind of current era?
Whatever you want. I would be fine with both. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. I'm gonna take us back in time to 2017. I found, well, in 2016 I kind of knew of like the really old, kind of like the old DeviantArt ranters of that time. So like Jakku and Solar Sands, like those types of people. And I kind of like noticed that. I kind of hopped off that from the animation meme community. And, you know, I was just kind of like dabbling around in those areas of internet stuff. And eventually it got to the point where I found a commentary response video by Pondersprocket and another person who, you know, I won't name because they moved on from that type of content, covering Sav draws because of a video he made that was like really uninformed, and kind of demonstrated that he didn't know what he was talking about. So I ended up loving Pondersprocket's content so much that I kind of followed her back to her channel, because it wasn't on her channel. I followed her back to her channel, which had total backlog of commentary videos that were all like really entertaining. And at the same time, I was finding other creators who covered Sav draws, but these weren't commentators, they were ranters of like a kind of like a new era of DeviantArt ranting, moving the old one out. And that was like Junkie, Spocter, and she shall not be named, who got into a big drama in 2018 and vanished off the internet. But it was like that group of people, like Feghost even. And so I was kind of like discovering these two groups of like commentary and like new DA ranters. And like, I think of it now and they're like so old compared to what's going on now, but that was the era of what was going on. And when I traced Pondersprocket's content, I ended up seeing a few of her videos that were more community-based, and that's how I ended up finding content creators like Doodletones and some others who are not involved in the community, but at the time they were very prominent members of what they called the slideshow commentary community, which is a very tacky name. Sounds extremely... I don't know, I think of Windows Movie Maker when I think of slideshow commentary community, which probably a lot of them were using Windows Movie Maker. Yeah. But what's it called? So I kind of like found these two communities, and like the slideshow commentary community was very much an isolated Z-list corner, and that's not to say that like any of the content creators like were like terrible. I mean, some of them were, but they're like it wasn't like their content was terrible by default just because they were a niche community that didn't have a lot of attention. That was just the way it was, except for like a few prominent members. Like Ponder's Pocket ended up kind of fusing the two without really like by accident. She ended up fusing the two communities a little bit because she got so big and so many content creators were talking to her from the ranting community. So she ended up like pulling these two communities together, and I feel like they've mostly separated nowadays, but it was for a time there was something going on there, which was totally wacky. But anyways, what happened was I decided that I wanted to make argumentative commentary response videos, because like I don't know, that kind of content just kind of attracted me. And so there was a lot of dumb stuff going on the internet at the time of like August, July 2017. And so I had a lot to choose from, but I ended up choosing to cover a video by Digby the Goat talking about animation memes because I had been kind of involved with like the animation meme community. Like I never made them, but I tracked it very closely for a good 2 years prior to like when he started like this short-lived series, basically basically dunking on random animation memes with little to no substance. And so I made that video, and it got like standard first video traction, like basically none. But Doodletones ended up finding it while she was looking for videos to cover, and she went on a Ponder Sprocket live stream that I was like in the chat of, and she ended up talking about how she liked these videos, and she ended up liking them when she was looking for videos that she didn't like to cover, and she mentioned mine while I was there, not knowing that I was there. And so I kind of like got to identify myself and be like, hi, I made that video, oh my god. It was like such a crazy fangirl moment. And that ended up leading her to contacting me later on, and inviting me into like a Discord server that had like all the members of that little niche slideshow commentary community. So even though they were small, I was like nothing. I was like a tiny content creator. And then I picked up some traction that was going a little bit beyond what was like normal for the time. But I think that's because of the type of stuff I covered, because like they were a very niche community because they covered very niche topics that a lot of people don't really care about, sad as that is. But that like that's not a dig at them, that's just saying that like the content that they work with is very isolated to a point where people who are not in the know of like what that community is, they're not going to really care. Like it's not something that's very welcoming to a large audience. But anyways, in that time, I befriended Ponder Sprocket, and she ended up kind of, like I said, fusing the two. So I ended up talking to ranters, and I never identified as a ranter. I never identified as someone who was in the DA ranting community because I never made a DNet rant video in my life. But that's when problems started arising in communities, because people started associating me with communities that I didn't myself identify with, and that I never made content for, which then led to people making assumptions about what I believed, who I supported, what values I held, all those kinds of things. And it was like in a very absolutist nature where if I talked to someone, I was like instantly their best friend. I supported everything they did. It's because I'm part of this clique in the community. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm just trying to talk to people, and the public is making it such an issue. But at the same time, and this is all in like 2018. So while I was getting all this blowback from people in public who just kind of wanted to devalue my comments on situations as just like, oh, DeviantArt drama, whatever. On the inside of communities, there was so much infighting and drama that I couldn't talk to people normally because they were all caught up in whatever drama was occurring, and it was like they were expected to like care deeply about it, even if they themselves were not linked to the drama, besides being in the same community that the drama is occurring in. And I didn't vibe with that. So it got to a point in like 2019, I would say, where I'd already like kind of like distanced myself silently from communities and just kind of like formed tight little friendships with a few people who I considered myself friends with outside of a community. Like, we could talk about anything. But it got to the point where I essentially just like kind of went on air. This is probably like in someone's stream or something. But I ended up just going on air and being like, I don't identify with any communities. They're kind of like BS. They've done nothing good for me, which they did some good for me, but the bad kind of outweighed whatever good there was in the beginning. But I was just like, none of these communities are doing me any good. They're causing so much problems with my friend groups and people that I'm trying to talk to. They're messing up stuff that I'm trying to speak out about. Basically, they were just a huge hassle. So I kind of just isolated myself from communities, never branded myself as being part of communities, and I just kind of became a lone wolf. And that's kind of how I describe myself nowadays, too. But I kind of softened a little bit on my reaction to being associated with communities, because I just understand that that's gonna happen. And as far as I've seen, well, some of the time when people do that, it's not in bad faith. It's in good faith. Kind of like what's going on right now. Like, you're not associating me with a community in bad faith too, where you're like, oh, you believe this. Like, you're coming to me and you're asking me my thoughts on stuff. But like a lot of people who used to do that with me and like associate with me communities, it was all in bad faith. And that still happens from time to time. And I still don't like that, but I've kind of like taken a chill pill and being like, okay, not everyone who does that is out to devalue what you do or what you say. And that's kind of where I'm at now, where I don't identify with communities, but I will talk to people in them, and I'm okay. Well, and I understand that I'm just going to end up being associated by proxy, whether I like it or not, unless I go out and like audibly denounce it like constantly. And I don't really feel like doing that. That seems pretty draining, both time and energy wise. So instead, I just kind of like, I'm more nonchalant about it, which is how I feel being associated with this community, which kind of came a result of me befriending like Omnia and Junkie. Well, I was already friends with Junkie, but like befriending Omnia and Thuman and those people who were very prominent vocal members of that community, that I was like, okay, I know I'm just going to get associated with it. So that's kind of how I ended up here, was with kind of like injecting myself into that giant Toby drama, and, you know, openly being friends with Omnia and Thuman and members of the community. That was such a tangent, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Alright. Well, can you tell me about a few incidents where criticizing a user ended up harming the user and the audience watching, like, not just with your content, but mostly just in general, like forms of content within the community that ended up just causing a massive situation to start or just damage the people watching. Damage to people watching.
Absolutely. I was never in like the old DeviantArt community, like DeviantArt ranting community, but back then there was such a misunderstanding or such a lack of understanding about art criticism to the point where a lot of it was just ad hominem and shaming people for stuff they liked. It was very destructive. A lot of it was young artists who were just posting willy-nilly, and these larger content creators which kind of like farm it for content. There was really no, how do I explain this? Like, they weren't criticizing in hopes of them improving. They were criticizing them to make a mockery of them as artists, which was very destructive. It led to a lot of artists getting hurt. Savjaws used to do that all the time. Savjaws has, he's moved on, and he doesn't do that anymore. I don't think he agrees with it and stuff, so I'm not like shading him. He was kind of a prominent example of that stuff going on. I think Fandom Menace was also like that. I don't know what the hell he's doing nowadays, but yeah, there was a lot of attacking smaller artists, which led to like a big misconception about what criticism is, because a lot of them would hide under like, oh, it's just criticism, anyone can criticize anything, like you're not safe from it, which is true, but criticism can be criticized in the way that it's delivered and the intention behind it. Like, if you're going out and you're giving very destructive criticism of random young artists, that kind of warrants criticism, like, on its own, because that is, I don't know, there's nothing to really gain. You're just kind of kicking small artists down. And I used to hear that argument from people, and I didn't used to agree with it back then because of the way they dressed it up. Like, they used to dress it up in a very absolutist manner, which would be like, you should never criticize like people publicly, like go to them privately, which that's not a thing. It was either I'm allowed to bully the hell out of the small artist, or you should never criticize anyone publicly, or else you're a terrible person. I was just kind of like, oh my god, everyone's crazy. But there was a huge misconception about criticism, where people would just kind of be like, they would like remove any label of destructive or constructive and just act like criticism on its own could be presented in a very destructive manner while also being fine, which I don't agree with. I think that there's really only two kinds, constructive and destructive, and there's positive and negative criticism of those kinds. So like, negative criticism is criticizing against something, whereas positive criticizing is finding things that should be upheld and continued. So there's like many branches of criticism, but in terms of constructive and destructive, those are really the only two kinds of types that I see, really, where it's either meant to not uplift, but like either given so that the artist improves, or given so that it discourages your subject of criticism. And there was like a big creator, he used to be like, oh, I'm allowed to like be really mean with my criticism and like harsh with it because I'm not giving constructive criticism, I'm just giving criticism. Which not only does that give a very it shows a lack of understanding that constructive does not mean nice. Like, constructive criticism does not have to be delivered nice. What matters is like what the outcome of it will be, like what your intentions are. And his was very much destructive. But he never used to use that term. He would just say, oh, it's just normal criticism. It's like, no, it's a very specific type of criticism that you're perpetuating. And so that led to like so much stuff for like years. And it's kind of balanced out by now. I can't really tell at this point. I don't know. It seems like the topic of conversation has moved past defining criticism in that regard. And they're more focused on arguments, which I'm a fan of, because I think that's what a lot of it should have been to begin with, but we had to have that whole random semantics argument about what is good criticism and what's not good criticism. That was very tiring. And so that, I think that whole era led to people getting hurt a lot, just because there was no real understanding of what like criticism even was, or like what people were supposed to be doing with criticism. So then it just kind of led to people going wild, like big content creators going wild and just saying completely condemnable stuff. Which kind of changed, like moving away from that. But I think the animation meme community and stuff like that kind of held on to that era a little longer because the community is so young. The kids, they don't really grasp higher concepts like that as quickly. So that like led to like the whole Ashley drama, where she got criticized for being unoriginal, and like that was like cancelable, and it was so wild and weird, like these kids going on the offense to like ruin her reputation and like dox her and stuff. And I was like, oh my god, like, can y'all chill? Like, you're all like 13, like do your homework. So there was like that, and that kind of mellowed out too, because there were content creators who were not in that community, but they kind of like stepped in as like older figures to be like, kids, this ain't it, like this isn't healthy criticism. And I think that's those are the instances that come to mind when I think of like criticism harming people. I think very much of those situations, and I think it even happened recently last year with like people criticizing Omnia and Kai, because it was like, that was kind of different though. Like, it wasn't meant to be destructive or constructive. It was just bad, untrue criticism, which I mean is like how, that's what I mean when I'm talking about how the conversation has kind of moved to objective, like mistruths and facts, rather than like semantic battles about criticism. Because that situation, although the criticism harmed Omnia and Kai, it wasn't because it was like mean or destructive criticism. It was just untrue and dishonest, which still had like a devastating effect on their mental well-beings, I'm sure. But it was like it was a different kind of harming than what I used to see happening a lot, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right. Do you think the community has a big bandwagoning problem?
I go back and forth. Sometimes, I don't know, it's kind of like a whole cancel culture thing, where people who are supposedly subjected, like the subjects of bandwagoning, will kind of blow it out of proportion, where they'd be like, oh my god, 3 videos were made on me, I'm a bandwagon, guys, look at me, I'm being the victim of cancel culture. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, people are just criticizing you. And like, oftentimes these creators have their own unique criticisms because they have their own unique perspectives. I think bandwagoning is when multiple people make the same video with the same exact messages and points. And you know, that's like a bad form of bandwagoning. But I don't even think bandwagoning is necessarily a problem, because oftentimes bandwagoning can be used to prop up previously suppressed voices and kind of open a dialogue on that. So like, if some big creator is constantly doing something, and then one video maker makes a response, and then it kind of like causes like like an avalanche of videos, or like it spawns like a trail of videos being made about it. It can kind of open a dialogue about whatever the issues the person was being criticized to begin with, and that can obviously be taken in a very unhealthy manner that could end up leading to something like cancel culture, but that's so rare a lot of the time, and I feel like a lot of the time it's the people who are the subject of that like bandwagon kind of taking it like out of like taking it out of proportion, because it feels so big in their minds that they get so defensive and end up making it into something bigger that wouldn't have happened if they just taken a step back and kind of cooled down before responding. So on some cases, yes, if it is like unhealthy, but like I don't think that Lupus Volpez, who was kind of a bandwagon, I don't think that was like bad, because you know, like she did some condemnable stuff, and like people needed to have that conversation again and like hear stuff like regarding LGBT phobia and issues, and kind of clearing up misconceptions about bigotry, and how bigotry does not solely mean like openly hating someone. It can be more masked and dressed up, like Lupus Volpez was. Her bigotry was dressed up in a very innocent and dainty, I'm not being hateful manner, even though she very clearly was being unaccepting, which is a form of bigotry. So I don't think like people bandwagoning on stuff like that is a problem. If there's like a small content creator, or like if the criticism isn't justified, I think there is a problem with that kind of bandwagon. But I can't really think of situations like that. Actually, I can, but I don't know if I should speak about that one, because that's kind of still ongoing. And if they catch wind, then they're gonna mention me or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, probably best not to mention it.
Which I don't have.
If it's a problem,
I don't have a problem with them mentioning me, but like if I don't have a problem with them mentioning me, but like I don't want to connect it to this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they mention me, I want it to be because I came at them on my own. But there is that, and it's not from the art commentary community. It's like from this different community full of like a bunch of weirdos. That's very how would I say, generalizing and stuff. But it's not the art commentary community. It's kind of like this new circles that I don't even know if I would call it community. It's a very tight-knit circle of people like really perpetuating a bandwagon of mistruths and dishonest arguments. So I don't generally think that there's a big bandwagoning problem in the community anymore. I think there used to be like people bandwagoning on small artists that they thought were cringy. That was definitely an issue back then. But I don't think bandwagons are necessarily an issue, because oftentimes they lead to discussion and dialogue, and I'm a fan of that, so there's that. And also I think bandwagon is a very specific like type of thing where it's not like, oh, you got 3 videos made on you, you're a bandwagon. It's like, oh my god, there's like 20 videos like being made about me, all saying the same things, often like perpetuating like the same mistruths. Like that's what I would consider a bandwagon, not 4 people made a video about a person or about a situation. That's not a bandwagon in my opinion.
Okay. Well, do you think people in the commentary community in general overreact to things, or make decisions based on how they feel? Do they act on impulse at all?
Oh my god, absolutely. I gotta talk trash, not generally naming names, but like, oh my god, in the past like 3 months, I've seen so many people act on purely emotions, which is not to say that like emotions are not important, but like if there's no reason, like if there's no rational backing to your emotions, you kind of just have to take a step back. But like these people function like a lot of people who, I'm not gonna name names, but like, and I totally would if this was like my own thing, but like there's people who comment on stuff purely out of emotions, and then when they get criticized, they react very poorly based on their emotions, and then they refuse to take a step back and look logically and then apologize for like their objective wrongdoing or like the misinformation they spread. And then that leads to like a whole bunch of enabling of bad behavior, and then that leads to friends like kind of like grouping up with them and forming this whole emotional resentment against people that criticize that one person, because they have such a visceral emotional reaction, which may be because of like biases, because they're friends, or they don't like the person giving out the criticism. And I see that happen a lot, not necessarily in the art commentary community. Well, I mean, yeah, because I mean, Toby and a lot of her friends reacted very emotionally, which led to that whole situation blowing up beyond what it needed to be. I think Just a Robots video and stuff, he even admitted like to Spotcher that like that whole video was driven by emotions and like anger and stuff rather than wanting to clear up like objective mistruths or see who's really in the right or wrong. So it's not even like just the CC, but like people that I've seen in like broader senses, like I'm talking very broadly CC, so like slideshow, DeviantArt, art commentary community, like I've seen people in all of those communities as someone who acts as kind of an insider by like being in like Discord servers. I've seen them react so emotionally and poorly to criticism, like very basic criticism, where I'm just like, should y'all be making content? Like, I'm not sure, like, you should be making content right now. Like, take a step back, like, breathe, because right now, like, I've been seeing this increase in this reactionary mentality from people within various commentary communities that is very uncomfortable to see, because it's kind of a I don't want to say like it's a wake-up call for me, but like I don't remember it being as bad as it's become. And because I genuinely thought that some of the creators who I've seen act so poorly were cool people prior to this, but I look back and I'm like, okay, I can't tell if you're just fake or if you're just going through a rough patch. So I'm just gonna like distance myself from you as like a person, because like I feel like that aspect of the circles and communities has gotten worse in some aspects, because I've like people that I have been on this platform for a very long time, I've seen act very emotionally, like overreact to things, where they like demonize someone and they unfairly hold two things to the same level, even though one is clearly worse. Or and it's like I can see right through it because I know who's holding a bias. And it's so funny. There was this one instance, I won't name names, but there was an instance in which someone really didn't like a video, and it was I immediately snuffed out that it was because they criticized a friend of theirs, and they didn't like that, even though the criticism was totally fair. And they operated by this weird logic that they themselves knew better. Like they knew better than what they were arguing for. So like they were saying like, oh, you can do this and it shouldn't be considered a problem, even though they specifically avoid doing that because they know that it is a problem, but they were giving an excuse for it because the person they were defending was a friend. And that was like extremely concerning to me because I thought that this person was generally pretty good at handling things rationally and taking a step back. But I feel like the Toby drama has kind of, I don't know, this isn't the fault of Omni or Kai or anything, because like they kind of just kept to their own, but it's kind of caused this increase in reactionary behavior that then gets enabled by those circles, and it's concerning. I don't know. It's concerning because I don't know what these people do. Right now, that kind of reactionary behavior is causing problems publicly, but again, I won't mention it so that you don't get involved in that at all.
All right. Okay, so one of the last questions here.
Okay.
From looking back, from all of the years of being around and knowing about the commentary community and everything, what do you think the commentary community is like now?
I don't know much about the slideshow commentary community because I don't interact with them anymore. I feel like they're the ones that I've like kind of abandoned fully. But in terms of like art commentary community, I feel like there's a bit of a rift. I feel like there's a lot of tension and very cliquey. There's been creators who have mentioned that it's been cliquey beforehand, and that's definitely true. Definitely aspects of the community were extremely cliquey, which is kind of why I distanced myself from them, because that was another huge issue, was like, oh, we have cliques and like we hate each other and you can't be friends with this person because she said this about my one friend. And like there's like, you don't know anything about that because it's so muddled through the telephone that you're like, I don't even know what the issue like going on here is. So I feel like it's very cliquey. There's a lot of tension between different creators, which you could probably tell publicly a little bit, but inside there's a lot more tension between the different cliques, where you're just like, damn, like these people can hold a grudge, which like, if you were wronged by someone and they never apologize, then like that's like not an issue if you're still upset with them. I'm upset with people who never apologized to me for stuff they did. So I'm not going to judge on that front. But like there's so much unjust angst and resentment for like other people in the community that I am kind of reserving myself to a very small section, and befriending them outside of the community, if that makes sense. Like I'm friends with people in the community, but I don't actively engage with them in that regard. I engage with them on a more like personal level where I don't have to talk about community issues, if that makes sense. So like if there's issues regarding the community, I'm not really a part of it. I'm having trouble explaining this. It's so weird. Basically, right now, what I feel like the community is kind of in a, I don't even know how I would describe it. It's kind of like in a lull right now. Like publicly, it's in a lull because a lot of the content creators are on breaks. So there's not a lot of open public discourse because of like the whole thing that exploded at the end of last year, where everyone was making videos and stuff. But in the more private sectors, there is so much angst and dishonesty and lack of communication in a lot of different areas. It's generally not generally not a community that I'm like super chill with being friends with everyone in, which I never was, but more now than ever, I'm very selective about the people in the communities that I choose to talk to and befriend based on my own observations of bad behavior and dishonesty coming from certain people. So I know who is a good person, and that's not to say that like people are like bad people, but I know who has a cleaner record and it doesn't have bad intentions or is not spewing dishonesty or enabling bad behavior. And those are the people that I'm chill with.
Alrighty. So the last question is, how would you like this community to be like going forward? Is there any criticisms that you can give people, or any new commentators or anything like that, like to help them improve?
I would say, even though I'm not in these communities, like through identifying, I would love if these communities could, like, I don't know, be more open to talking to people and like doing introspection to think like maybe I'm wrong, like, and I don't know, I feel like there's so much pride in a lot of these things that a lot of them just can't swallow it and own up to mistakes they made, which is really disappointing. So I think that people should be, if there's anything that I want this community to be more of, it's transparent about messing up and going forward. Because there's a lot of people who have publicly like goofed, and they take it upon themselves to kind of just move on without saying anything, despite the fact that they all have platforms. They all affect stuff with what they say because they have platforms. And they need to be more aware. That's what I meant. I want them to be more aware of the platform that they carry, of the impact of the stuff they say, and I want them to be more transparent about self-reflection and owning up to mistakes, and listening. I want them to listen better. This community that we're talking about really needs to, I don't know, like take a step back and listen better, because they're not currently, I don't believe they're listening all that much really, and that leads to emotional reactionary behavior, which then gets enabled because no one is doing self-reflection. So that's what I think is like a basic, very, very basic kind of starting point. Like, take a step back, listen, do some reflection, and become more aware. That's my basic, I don't know, my advice for the community. In terms of new people coming in, I would say don't join for the wrong reasons. Like, if you're just joining to be popular or like get in on a bunch of secrets or whatever, that's not good, and people are going to sniff you out really quick. Join because it's something that you want to do. You don't have to have a big platform to befriend people. So like there's other ways. Like, if you, like, obviously larger content creators are a little difficult to reach because they are kind of isolated from that because they're so used to people trying to befriend them for popularity and stuff. But don't join for that reason. Like, you can make friends without popularity fishing. And popularity, like, I don't know, friendship should never be something that you try to make to get a gain out of. It should be something you try to make because you enjoy the person's company and like want to make them part of your life. So recognize if you're doing something for the wrong reason, it's gonna backfire hardcore. That's kind of unrelated, but it's just something I've thought of recently. Also, don't take the advice that I just gave to the community and apply it to yourself as someone starting out. Like, you don't have to wait until you mess up really badly to do self-reflection. Like, do reflection all the time, in the stuff you're making. Like, if you're writing a script for a video or trying to do something, do reflection for the video. Think, is what I'm saying true? Is what I'm saying necessary? Is this part needed? Will this cause problems? And I don't know, do some introspection and ask for friends' help. If you're unsure about a situation or your actions, before they even make it to the public, check in with a friend. And if they tell you, hey, I don't think this is a good idea, then, I don't know, listen. Because, Junkie did that. He had a video that he planned with Mad Libs that was going to be god-awful. But some of his friends and close people close to him were like, we don't think this is a good idea. And then he was like, oh, okay. And he turned that around. But, that's because Junkie listened and took a step back and then did reflection on his own biases. And he came out of that situation flawlessly. Well, not flawlessly, but he came out of that situation way better than his peers did, who ended up going through and didn't listen and made those mistakes and then didn't apologize and enabled bad behavior. Circle of hell goes on forever. So yeah, be like Junkie in that regard. Don't be reactionary. That's basically all I have to offer in terms of advice. Of course. Oh, hopefully. Oh, okay. Real quick. I I don't know. Hearing you say that's insightful. This is very nice. Thank you. I hope my ramblings weren't incoherent messes. That's what. Okay. Well, thank you for having me. This was real nice to be able to come on here and give my perspective on stuff. As someone who, while not identifying with communities, has been involved behind the scenes and seen the stuff that goes down.
Who are you? What do you do? What is your channel? What is your purpose?
Yeah, my name's Rei Rants. I'm a rather small reviewer. Yeah, I'm a channel. I mostly do things from reviews to commentary. Mostly stuff. I mostly like to talk about topics that I'm personally interested in, and I like to get my points across. As you can see, I kind of talked about a few YouTubers a lot during my old times, but now I'm just trying to go towards reviewing.
Well, what is your experience with the commentary community? How'd you get started? Where'd that come from? What made you join?
I believe the first commentator I ever watched was Mr. Enter, believe it or not, where I mostly watched those SpongeBob videos. From that point on, I actually started to like the guy, and from that point on, I started to watch some of his colleagues. Like there was Pie Guy, there was because I tend to watch a lot of commentators, but yeah, I actually started to see. I like the thing that I like most about the content community is like I get to hear like other people's opinion on said topics, or get to hear other people's opinions on said topics. Yeah, I know what the phone is. The phone. I'm sorry. It's the speaking house phone. But, but yeah, to be fair, I do love the commentary community for hearing other people's thoughts on a certain topic or controversy that's going on. Despite what people may say about the commentary community, I feel like you shouldn't shame the whole community as a whole, but people do need to change the way how they gossip or how they deal with controversy.
Also, like, can you tell me about like a few incidents where like criticizing a user ended up harming the user or the audience watching? Like, not necessarily with your content, but more like just in general of like what you viewed or anything. It's um, like any stuff with that commentary, with the commentary community that you have observed or experienced.
Let's see. There was this one incident back in 2015 where Mr. Enter was making a certain SpongeBob video, and at one point in review, although this was a rather stupid thing to do, and he also did admit it, he kind of, he kind of got angry to the point that he put up a certain writer's Twitter post and basically going through it and basically insulting the writer, and this kind of made Mr. Enter's fans go and harass the said writer. Let's see, but yes, Mr. Enter did thankfully apologize for that behavior, and he never really pulled another stunt like that again. Let's see, any other instances I've witnessed? Hmm. Oh, um, oh, yeah, basically, this is not like one separate incident. There'd be a whole countless incidents, but when people talk about like certain YouTubers like SML and basically give their disagreements on him, yeah, there used to be a time where a lot of the fanboys would encourage, they would basically join the hate wagon towards bashing people who had any amount of dislike for SML, either him as a person or for his channel. And yeah, audience members would basically harass any haters, or as they used to call them.
Do you think there's a big bandwagoning problem in the community?
Yeah, I think the trope that people mostly follow is the angry reviewer trope. Like, I don't know if you know this YouTuber by the name of Angry Video Game Nerd. Like, I would say that he was the one who started the whole genre of being the angry swearing type.
Yeah, he's
And from that point on, I have seen that behavior come to other people. Yeah. Yeah, and I have seen a lot of reviewers try to
Yeah.
Hmm?
Like
You
in
saying?
AVGN, for AVGN it's like and maybe perhaps like a lot of people didn't have like good taste, like they didn't have like it wasn't in good taste like it was with AVGN because it
Yes.
wasn't done correctly.
Yeah, and I have seen a lot of viewers try to replicate his style without knowing what actually made his version of that type of reviews funny, and while not being malicious. Yeah, and then other people try to be like him, which obviously it doesn't really seem to work half the time. Yeah, then you have reviewers, you have people like Nostalgia Critic, Mr. Enter, you could say leafy. Yeah, a lot of people try to do exactly what he did, which obviously does not work most of the time.
Well, is there anything beneficial coming from the type of situation where you criticize a user and it improves? Like, is there any beneficial thing that happens from criticizing like a user and telling them, hey, well, you could probably react to this better, or try to learn from like what you did wrong?
And you said that any personal experience I had
Yeah.
with criticizing a user.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I do. Actually, plenty of times actually when I criticize Super Mario Logan for the way he did his content. And yeah, as you go through my channel, you'll see I have a bunch of SML videos that could be more or less dated now, but at the time, I feel like they were more important because he done a lot of shady things from like scamming his fans and not giving them anything in return to, lying about saying he would improve and he never does. Yeah, I basically made these videos out as a way to try to reach out to him and tell him to, and at least try to make him see his flaws and improve himself. Which, in the long run, at the end of the day, if YouTubers decide to improve or not, that's entirely on them.
Okay. Do you think some people within the commentary community overreact to things or make decisions based on how they feel, or if they just make videos of because they want to get like they want to get big like their idols or something like that? Do you think people overreact in that sort of fashion, or I don't know? What do you think about that?
Okay, like I was saying, yeah, I do feel like people tend to overreact to. I do feel like people tend to overreact to things, mostly because I feel like they tend to let their emotions get in the way instead of actually thinking things logically and clearly. In terms of make decisions based on how they feel, yeah, I feel like people tend to let their emotions get in the way instead of they tend to let their emotions get in the way instead of actually doing research. You know,
They act on
but yeah,
impulse, possibly.
I kind of wish people would at least. Yeah, I kind of feel like people would. I kind of wish people would stop overreacting to things and at least think through their decisions more carefully. I guess the same problem could be said for the cartoon community. Like people would overreact to the smallest things and try to encourage people to hate something just because that commentator does. I'm actually making a video about that. But I might make a video on the cartoon community. Although I guess all my problems describing the commentary community might also be said for the cartoon community.
Possibly. I'm not familiar with the community myself, so I wouldn't. I can't really speak on that. But with the commentary community, not
No,
obviously.
it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Definitely.
So, how would you like the commentary community to be like going forward? Like, do you think is there any improvements that they can make, or like anything like that?
But yeah, improvement. Oh, definitely. I feel like people need to at least stop being so negative and towards I feel like people need to at least be a bit more positive and try to. Hold on. Actually, hold on. I think my script might be good for this. Hold on. There we go. Well, at least for one, I feel like people should stop putting the words harassment and criticism together. Which that's probably like my biggest plight with the community. Like they tend to put harassment and criticism on the same level, and I put it on my charger. There we go. But yeah, I'm tired of hearing the phrase criticism is the same level as harassment because God forbid you have any flaws of any kind,
Mm-hmm.
and God forbid people point out said flaws. Like, you ever had any experience like that?
Um.
That people get upset just
Oh.
for exposing or talking about flaws?
Oh. Well, well, one. Yeah. As like, as for giving people criticism personally, I've been a Discord mod more than once. Obviously, like people don't. You give them those slight bit of criticism, or tell them not to do something, and then they get upset. Or like I've seen people like the video is completely fair, and then they freak out over it or something. Like they don't take the said criticism, and
Yeah,
I think it's really immature that they can't see it that way.
even get to the point that some people will go as far as to try to get said videos taken down, or they will mass flag them,
Oh, that yeah, I don't like
which
that.
shows how which shows how immature they are. Yep.
Yeah, unless like the video is actually like breaking TOS for YouTube, or is in like providing illegal content. I don't ever see a situation where a video should be mass flagged.
I mean, unless it's extremely inappropriate, that I can understand. But I think that's probably the only reason you should mass flag a video.
Yeah.
But I highly doubt most videos go that far on YouTube. At least I hope they don't.
Probably not.
I'm pretty sure even YouTube wouldn't let inappropriate things slide.
Well,
At least I hope they don't.
well, I that's all the questions that I have for you. Thank you for coming on and giving your piece. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no worries.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem.
I thank everyone who had helped me out with this video. The main thing I want you to take away from this is how we can all improve and how we can approach each other in these type of videos and situations. We need to stop making drama for no reason and focus on constructive criticism. The current behavior we have now will hurt the community more than help it. If we engage in open dialogue, perhaps we could get somewhere? Lastly, when critiquing someone, please plan ahead of time with a script and important evidence on hand at all times. If there's nothing to even talk about, don't make the video. Simple. That's all I can say at any rate. If you have any thoughts or feedback on the video or about today's subject, please leave your thoughts below. I always enjoy hearing what you guys have to say and what your thoughts is on the video and everything. So yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.